You're listening to the Spend 10K a Day podcast, brought to you by the performance marketing experts at MuteSix. This is your source for cutting-edge insight into the world of online advertising from the team with more Facebook case studies than any other agency on the planet. Here is your host, Steve Weiss.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Spend 10K a Day podcast, reporting to you live from the beautiful Los Angeles, California. As usual, today we have an incredible show for you. We have Josh Henry-Hicks, the Aussie man, is in the house. He's one of our senior Facebook campaign managers, coming all the way from Australia. His family's been in the e-commerce retail business for multiple generations, so he's lived and breathed retail his whole adult life, and he's still not actually an adult, but somehow we talk about his adult life. Welcome, Josh. Thanks for coming on, man.
Cheers, Steve. Good to be here. And what a sunny day it is in California. Another good one.
Yeah, it's sunny every day.
It's beautiful.
Such a predictable place we live in. But today we have an awesome topic. So obviously, Josh, your expertise is specifically scaling on Facebook and creative. Those are the two things that you always talk about, you're passionate about. You know, we had a great conversation earlier today about, like, what are the signs specifically that relate to seeing the potential to scale a campaign. I know you've had a campaign that you've been working on recently that literally started at zero. You know, you took it on and, you know, you had very low expectations, I'd say. You'd very low, you know, you thought you'd spend $300-$400. They had very little UGC assets, they user-generated content assets. They had, you know, no actual pixel traffic, very little. And obviously, when you see that there's not a lot of assets, there's no celebrity backing, there's no pixel traffic, there's very little no organic web traffic. You know, it makes the job and the life of a Facebook, you know, campaign manager a lot harder. I'd say you'd agree. You're kind of stacked against each other of trying to figure out what creative is going to hit and how to do it. So, talk a little more about, like, some of the signs that you see, because now that you've got them up to spending almost $5,000 a day, which is kind of magical. You had a video that you created that went viral, and I think, you know, it's kind of mind-boggling. But tell me more about, like, you know, so what you're seeing. Like, what are the key indicators for Facebook and Instagram today? Not 6 months ago, but today. Like, what are you seeing that indicates that this has legs? We could really scale this baby to the moon.
Well, firstly, you need to have a reason to scale, and I always say that to a lot of our clients. You need to have a reason, and that's either a creative, it's either a product, either something you're changing on the site or the funnel. You know, if you kind of need that reason and you need that strategy, it can't just be, you know, one day we wake up and you know, suddenly we can scale it. That rarely happens. So, you know, in this particular case, it was a creative. So we launched a really well thought out creative. Sold the product really, really well. First 5 seconds, very crucial in creating that eye-catching moment. And really, as soon as we launched that particular creative, and these guys were literally spending, like, you know, $100 a day, $200 a day, so very, very small. Really, straight from launch, we saw, you know, 10 relevancy scores, which we knew was a really good start. Really, really cheap traffic. So we're talking, like, you know, 10, 15 cent clicks on this ad. So at that point, you know, this is really early days in the spend. We knew that we were onto something. We knew that, you know, the relevancy scores were great, clicks were great, you know, and we had a good feeling with the creative that they would then turn into purchases. You know, add to carts ended up being quite low. So at that point in time, it was really about, okay, we feel like we're on a winner here. How do we kind of maximize the potential, and how do we, I guess, you know, do it as quickly as possible? Because if you scale something over a longer period of time, I feel like there's this gap where you can actually lose out in your return, and it's actually, you know, beneficial to be as quick as possible and kind of maximize the creative's you know, initial time to market as quickly as possible.
What's really interesting is you made a point that urgency is that when you see something hit, just because the auction changes and is so, like, I guess volatile is a good word, that like when something does hit, when you start seeing something like out of nowhere, like right now, like, you know, picture this: you have a campaign you're running for a new e-commerce brand. They have no prior history, and you just see something hit. You see a new video that you've done, and you're like, wow, it's getting like almost 80-90% cheaper clicks than normal. You see that the video is being shared, is going viral. You know, those are the traits that you know that something is going on. You know, what did you do next? Like, obviously, it was for that ad set, you were targeting a really big audience of lookalikes. You know, after you see some of those signs, like wow, this could be something big. Like, what do you do next, and how do you kind of sustain that? I think that's what a lot of marketers are trying to figure out: is how do you sustain a campaign like that? How do you keep it running, and what are some of the bid strategies? Obviously, you're doing bidding for conversions. You're trying to get as much virality, as much heat to that specific creative as possible, rotating that creative into different ad sets. But tell me your thoughts. Like, what is number one? What do you do next? And number two, how do you sustain that?
Yeah, good question. So what do you do next? You really need to be as fast as you can, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, I always think, I've got something that's winning. How do I get this in front of as many people as possible? Like, I'm confident if they see the ad, they're going to click through, and, you know, based on, you know, some initial data, the chances of them converting are proportionally higher than anything that we've run previously. So I always think, okay, how can I get this into as many people as possible as quickly as I can? So, you know, obviously, you know, you fill up your remarketing audiences, and that's very easy, and you should see immediate success with that. Really, the prospecting expansion of audiences needs to be very, very fast. So what we'll do is we'll try and launch as many relevant top of funnel prospecting audiences as soon as we can, and that means, you know, we'll dig through the data. We'll come up with some strategies on, you know, what these audiences are and how they relate to the specific brand. But really, that it's that part where, you know, you not only are you increasing your ad set budgets, but you're really expanding those audiences, lookalikes, interests. You know, really digging into your custom audiences. So it's that process which I think sometimes can, you know, maybe be a little slower if someone's a little less reactful. But if you are monitoring your data like you should be, it's being really fast with that, really being as quick as you can.
It's also like a lot of confidence. I feel like, you know, when you're running campaigns on Facebook, a lot of this is about having the confidence to scale, it's having the confidence to really put yourself out there and say, listen, I believe in this. This is something I'm passionate about. I think a lot of early campaign managers, I know, you know, I've been buying media for so long, and it's fun for me, but because I used to really, when I saw something hit, I used to jump up and down and get excited, especially on Facebook. So, you know, I think a lot of this is confidence, but, you know, what else goes into like the mindset? I feel like let's dig into the kind of the mindset of what makes a good a campaign manager confident enough to scale. Josh, what do you think the mindset is?
Honestly, it is that confidence, and you know, for us, that confidence comes with just those initial data signs. So you're looking at all your metrics from the full funnel, and as soon as you start to see that virality and that return come through on even on a small scale, as you're increasing that, if that is maintaining, and sometimes it even actually improves as you scale, that's when you just get that real confidence. Like, okay, let's just open this guy up. You know, let's open the floodgates here. And it is that, you know, and it's super exciting. Like it's a great feeling, and it's something that, you know, doesn't happen for every company, but with the right strategy, it can. And so, yeah, I think it just goes back to what you were saying before with confidence. You know, that confidence comes from the data. And once you have that confidence, it's really about being bold and actually expanding, you know, quite fast. I think, you know, you can be conservative, and I don't think at that particular time when you have something that's winning, it is the time to be conservative. It's really the time to be, you know, fortune favors the brave in this case, and often you'll find that, you know, the decisions you make to actually be a little bit bolder with your scaling, you know, tends to be fruitful.
Josh, you are a very bold author. You are a bold man. You said just some really, you know, interesting points. You know, for the aforementioned, can't mention the advertiser, the campaign you're running, but obviously, One thing to note, there is no discount codes. When we talk about scaling specifically now, what we're looking for is we like to think that we could scale campaigns without discounting. We like to think that we could scale campaigns without there being some type of big holiday sale or some, we want to create a stir. We want to create, something out of nothing. I think that the magic of Facebook is being able to create something, a stir out of nothing. There's nothing here. It's just regular ads. You come in there, we come up with a couple creatives that really disrupt the finger on the news feed, and boom, there's something. People are commenting, they're like sharing, they're tagging their friends, and that's the magic of a Facebook platform. And I think when you start thinking of your ads, the question is, how do you get more people involved? How do you make an ad, or a piece of content that really brings more people in and gets their friends involved? And I think that's the way we think of the psychology of marketing. It's everything that goes into social proof is like figuring out how to get people a part of the movement, a part of the action.
That's the magic. And it really just was a really well thought out creative. Like we're looking at video watch time. They're not watching more than 9 seconds. Like it's a 30-second ad. They're not watching more than 9 seconds. So it's that 9 seconds of well thought out. Okay, what are the key points we're going to communicate here in this 9 seconds? And that's what that's what's getting them incited. So it's all, and I'm sure everyone that's listening knows the importance of just that first interaction or that first, they say, scroll stop, thumb stopping moment. And really that's enough if it's done right. And, look, the product's good and the landing page is good. It's enough to scale a business. And we see that time and time again.
Who would have thought that, just take a minute to think about this, that something that stops someone from doing what they're doing actually gets them to make a decision. Like Facebook's not a platform just to serve content to. A lot of people are like, oh, it's social. People are just browsing, blah, blah, blah. But no, this is a decision platform. Because of the way you differentiate yourself as a brand, you're making yourself into a decision engine. People will look at the way you put your content in the feed and make a decision, not only to like, share, comment, but they'll make a decision to purchase or not. And they might have heard of you before. They might have engaged through email. They might have seen you on the streets. They might have seen a billboard. But their decision is solely based on the way you portray yourself on a feed. And I think so many advertisers don't realize that they have this one split second to get to get someone focused and to make a decision. I think that's the magic of creative, is that if you can interchange a direct response creative that not only gets people to really stop what they're doing and think, but this creative could also help people make a decision, right?
Yeah. For me, it's the single biggest factor in scaling a business. A lot of people talk about audiences and campaign structure and landing pages and the full funnel. And in my experience, it's that first 15 seconds of a video, and it can we've seen it scale. Literally scale businesses from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, just on a good idea and a well thought out, first 15 seconds of a video. So it's super exciting space to be in, and you just need to have the smarts to get that concept right. And obviously having a good product helps as well.
Let's talk, this conversation about scaling this, a lot of it's psychological, a lot of it is understanding and interpreting specific data that comes out of Facebook and looking at the social signals that come out of the ad and really just being able to interpret it and make decisions and actions as a campaign manager based on that data. But I think a lot of our listeners and a lot of people who listen to us have had some success scaling campaigns, and I think one of the biggest question marks is how do you keep that going? How do you sustain that? As one, obviously some people have scaled campaigns up, but then it goes right back down. How do you build creative that's sustaining, and how do you figure out how do to do that at scale? And I think that's what a lot of the people listen to this podcast are always trying to figure out, is not only how do you scale, but how do you sustain that $5-7 a day budget in, say, August, when people aren't buying. They're literally not on their Facebook. And I think that's the big question I think everyone's trying to figure out.
Yeah. And it's tough. For me, it's been about maintaining the rage on the creative. It needs to be constant, and it can't be drip fed. And it's kind of, say, okay, great, we scaled on, concept A. Well, how do we iterate on that? So, one of the successful campaigns that we've been running is, a product test, where you put your product against the test of the competitors, and really looking to show the users that, that the particular brand A actually comes out better than, the rest of the market. And so, how do you say that works for you? How do you iterate on that? Like, what's another concept that is like that, but is explained to the consumer in a different way? And really, a lot of that comes down to, okay, having a sequential ad strategy. So, yes, you scaled on one particular idea or one particular creative, but your remarketing funnel just can't get hit with that ad over and over again, because they've seen that concept for whatever reason. They haven't made a transaction. So really, it's about making iterations on that particular creative that sell the product in a slightly different way.
Whoa! You're going into the next episode. We gotta hold it back there, Josh. But sequential marketing. We talk about this a lot. Just, as a team, we have 30 campaign managers. We have our team meetings and talk a lot about sequences, about really making people feel like it's personalized. The next episode of Spend 10K a Day podcast is going to be on sequential marketing. So a little secret is going on, but I really it's been an awesome episode. I know from talking to you and seeing what's going on in the weeds, I always learn a lot, Josh. Thank you so much for coming on. You're going to be on the next podcast as well about sequential marketing. We're going to record another one here, so
bring it on.
It's going to be exciting. Thank you so much for listening. Today's episode is brought to you by the beautiful weather of Los Angeles. We're surrounded by beautiful weather, and they're sponsoring this podcast while we're in a room with no windows and seeing no sun. There's lots of other people who are having a great time outside. So thank you so much, beautiful weather of LA, for sponsoring today's podcast. Till next time, another episode of Spend 10K a Day podcast is coming right at you. Thank you so much.